Good Friday evening to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Browns training camp out in Berea still going strong, and we will talk plenty about the Cleveland Browns as they get ready for the 2020 season. A little different training camp for the Browns, and no fans, so we rely on our Browns beat reporter, Dan Labbe, from cleveland.com, as well as the pages of the Plain Dealer to tell us what's going on. Dan, you've seen pretty much every practice that's gone on out there. Most years I'd say, not great to be you. This year I'm a little jealous of you. Tell us some of your perceptions that you've seen just thus far in camp, what you've been able to tell from the Browns as they get ready for the 2020 season.
You know, they're still kind of making up for a lot of that time they lost in the spring. It's been very much install. We're seeing a pace that's probably pretty close to what we would see during OTAs and mini camps. We haven't really seen this team open up just yet. So they're really just trying to get things right now. We're seeing a lot of walkthrough stuff, and even when they do go to team stuff, it's not, any sort of scrimmage type setting or anything like that. So, based on what we can see, and our views aren't always great either this year, but based on what we can see, they're still just kind of moving along here, slogging along, trying to get things installed.
This is important to kind of remember. Ravens game, that opener's creeping up. It's only a few weeks away now. Do you think that affects what they try to do? And in this offense, it's a whole lot easier, takes a whole lot less timing to run the football than it does to have some intricate passing scheme.
It's really hard to imagine they're going to go to Baltimore and not just turn and hand the ball off a bunch to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That's a pretty good fallback plan, and those are two guys that have been pretty good so far in camp. So if they're not really fully ready to just open up this playbook and go full speed when they get to Baltimore, it's a problem, but they do have a nice fallback plan if they want to go a little old school and just run the ball a bunch.
Training camp, always the first chance to get a look at the rookies. Who's really kind of, and again, I know we're not seeing a lot of scrimmaging, but which of the rookies have kind of stood out and been impressive, do you think?
Well, unsurprisingly, it's a tight end. Harrison Bryant has been really good. He's catching almost everything that comes his way. It looks like he moves really well. My big question with Bryant, this is a guy that put up big numbers, but he did it with a group of 5 school. Now, group of 5 guys can certainly be successful in the NFL, but it's a big step up. And he's been able so far in camp to show that he's a guy that can probably push David Njoku for playing time a little bit. If David Njoku decides he's unhappy again and wants out, it looks like you could probably rely on Bryant if you want to do that. And he just opens up the possibilities for what Kevin Stefanski wants to do in this offense. And that's put a bunch of tight ends on the field, a bunch of running backs, and really make defenses make decisions.
That brings me to another one. Critical piece will be how well Jedrick Wills gets used to that left tackle spot. Have you been able to glean anything? How has he looked?
It's a little tough to see, but it's been a little, I guess we'll say, up and down. Will be nice to Jedrick. He's had some good moments where you see him, really hold his ground, or, if he gets beat, he recovers and makes a play. But there's been some rocky spots, too. And we haven't really seen Myles Garrett go at Jedrick Wills a whole lot. A couple of times the other day, I saw them go against each other, and Myles really kind of used his speed to get around him. It's probably a little unfair to judge him just going against Myles Garrett, but he's certainly getting a baptism by fire with Garrett. And then you've got Olivier Vernon. Those guys are going at him and trying to get him ready. It's been a little rocky so far. I'd be nervous if they were playing a game tomorrow, but the good news is they at least still have a couple weeks.
And again, it's important to realize he has to do everything different than he has normally as far as his sets. The difference with flipping sides is your dominant hand becomes your weak hand, and your legs and your positioning is all different. So at some point in time, you would expect a guy with that talent to click. Is that accurate? Fair to say, you think?
Yeah, it'll happen eventually. I just, I think the word of caution has always been, it's really unfair to expect him to be Joe Thomas, right? Joe Thomas came in, started his first game, didn't leave the field for 10,000 snaps, and was on his way to the Hall of Fame. That's a pretty unfair expectation for a guy like Jedrick Wills. It's probably going to take a little time. And Bill Callahan even warned us in the spring, we're going to put him out there week 1. And our goal is to watch him grow week 1 to week 17. This is going to be a process for him. Unless he's a complete disaster week 1 and week 2 early in the season, he's going to be out there, and you're going to have to live with some warts and some growing pains.
And this coaching staff has made it real clear they're going to help him as far as scheme and just what they ask him to do early on.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got, you can move a tight end over there. You're going to have a fullback on the field. There's a lot of different things you can do. And I always come back to the fact that if nothing else, he's got Joel Bitonio right next to him. And obviously in this wide zone, you're going to maybe have some pulling guards and things like that. But you've got a guy right next to your left tackle who's going to be able to help him out, who's going to be able to, if he does get beat, pat him on the shoulder and say, hey, you got to go get him this next play. And he's going to kind of be able to hold his hand and guide him along in this process.
Well, if Jedrick Wills is important for the offense, nobody more so than Baker Mayfield. What have you seen from him? Have you seen kind of the tweaks that they want to make in the mechanics, and how has he looked?
You are seeing some of the footwork they're trying to work on. And I think it's part of the reason why Baker has honestly just struggled in this camp. You haven't seen him really hit a lot downfield. He's connected pretty well with his tight ends. Him and Austin Hooper have a really good connection. But it's been a little up and down for Baker. He's missed some throws. Some of it is timing. Some of it is trying to get on the same page with people. But again, a little bit like Jedrick Wills. Yeah, I'll be concerned if, a week and a half from now we're still saying the same things about Baker. I'm willing to give it a little bit of time.
What about the way he took to coaching? There seems to be a genuine, I want to get better. I realize I wasn't good enough last year from Baker Mayfield, by all accounts.
Yeah, it really seems like he's accepted that last year did not go well for a lot of reasons. And it wasn't just, I was a little concerned some of these guys would come in and you had a really easy scapegoat, right? You could say, well, it was Freddie Kitchen's fault and Todd Monken's fault, and those guys are gone, so we're going to be okay. But I have seen guys come in, and at least what they're telling us is, we understand that we weren't good enough last year. We bought into the hype a little bit too much last year, and we've got to take it on ourselves to get better. And Baker Mayfield, I think, is leading that charge with accepting that coaching for new footwork, really putting in time to get his body right this offseason. All of those things kind of add up to a guy that at least understands he's got to do things differently this year.
Does it look like things are set up really well for him to have a big season, being Baker Mayfield? By all accounts, you got the tight ends. You're giving him a running back. You want to do play action. It seems like this fits, and it seems like Baker realizes it fits. Is that accurate from what you have seen out there?
Yes, it definitely is. This is an offense that's tailor-made for Baker Mayfield to be successful. And I think Baker understands how big this year is for him. Everything was great after that rookie season when you set the rookie touchdown record. Now you're coming into, you have a tough year 2. You're coming into year 3. You just saw a guy from your previous draft class, Patrick Mahomes, get paid. You're kind of one of the guys who's supposed to be up next, right? After this next group gets paid, you're supposed to be right there with them. You don't want to go into this year with a bunch of question marks. So I think this offense is really built for him to be successful. We're going to know a lot more about Baker Mayfield, next January than we did this last January when he came out of that system that just didn't work for him.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the pages of the Plain Dealer. We'll step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, Dan will rejoin us. We'll talk offense. Take a look at some of the position groups and who have been standouts on the offensive side of the ball for the Browns during this 2020 training camp. More sports, Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Will be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season. Become an Ohio State Tech subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. More sports and less Levine. The Weekend Winners edition continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to bring back in Dan Labbe. He's Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer. Dan, offensive line, you thought, boy, they got some things settled, and then J.C. Tretter goes out. So now you got some question marks at center, some question marks at right guard. What have you noticed from the offensive line?
Well, center's the one to keep an eye on. Nick Harris, they drafted him, and I thought maybe he was a guy that would have a chance to fight for that right guard job with the likes of Wyatt Teller. The good news is I haven't really noticed Wyatt Teller when I've been out there, which is what you want with your right guard. You don't really want to notice the guy. Look, losing J.C. Tretter is big. Him and Baker Mayfield have a pretty good connection, and that's a connection you've got to have with your center and your quarterback. J.C. Tretter is really, I think, one of the best centers in football. This scheme is really built for him to be successful. He's a guy that can get out and move in space. So now you're putting a rookie out there in Nick Harris. You've already got a rookie over at left tackle. This is one of those areas that was supposed to be a strength of the football team, and now you've kind of weakened one of those spots. You're asking a fifth-round pick to step in and maybe start right away. We'll see. J.C. Tretter played through a pretty nasty high ankle sprain a few years ago. We'll kind of see where he's at moving towards the opener. I would imagine if he's anywhere close to being able to go, he'll be out there.
Well, and the important thing about a center is all the in-game adjustments that he makes for the line. And Tretter, that's one of the things I think that makes him really good. Not only the physical thing, he's a tough guy. He's just so smart and understands what needs to be done. Is that the big concern if Nick Harris is your center, is all the calls that he's going to be relied on to make quickly?
Yeah, exactly that. Because J.C. Tretter, not only does he, like you said, is he smart and really knows what he's doing in that position, but he knows the Ravens really well. He plays them twice a year, and certainly that personnel changes, but you know those guys. You know what they want to do defensively, and that really helps as well, especially in this shortened off season. So the good news is if Tretter can go, it's not going to be hard for him to kind of pick up on what he needs to pick up on. To throw Nick Harris out there, though, against the Ravens, that's just another attack point for Baltimore. They're going to go after Jedrick Wills, and now they're going to be able to go after your rookie center, too, and that's not great news for Baker Mayfield.
What about Jack Conklin? That's a guy that made a big deal about a huge signing. How has he looked, and how important is he playing right tackle? But again, that wide zone running scheme, he's a key to that.
Right, we talk so much about left tackle, and right tackle is really important in today's NFL. There's a lot of teams who line up their best rushers on that side of the field. And look, if you're weak at right tackle and strong at left tackle, they're going to attack that right side. So Jack Conklin it's that domino effect where you have a guy where you can count on him on the right side. So now if you have to help Jedrick Wills out a little bit on the left side, that's okay because you're covered on the other side. Conklin's been in and out a little bit. They're taking it sort of easy with some of the veteran players. But he's a guy that you can count on, knows this scheme really well. Again, another guy like Tretter, like Batonio, he's kind of built to play in this scheme. So he's a really good fit over there, and I'm excited to kind of see him Once we get into real football, I'm excited to see what he brings to this line.
Let's lump all the skill position guys into one group. Who's really kind of grabbed your eye or caught some attention skill position wise?
Both the running backs look exactly like you want them to look. That's the really good news. They look like they're in shape. They look fast. Kareem Hunt especially looks really fast, looks really in shape. Huge year for him because he wants to be that featured back again sometime. And this is kind of the year where he's got a chance to show that he's still got something left. And everything's behind him, and he's more that guy that won the rushing title his rookie year than anything else we've seen from him. Austin Hooper is another guy. Again, it's not a surprise. It's what you expect. But Browns fans know sometimes you bring in a high-priced free agent, it doesn't always work out. But Austin Hooper has been really reliable and really good for this football team. Rashard Higgins is coming on a little bit of late as well. I didn't really notice him a whole lot early in camp, and then Alex Van Pelt absolutely praises the guy when we have him a couple days ago. And now Higgins has kind of picked up, caught a touchdown a couple days ago, had a couple catches on Thursday. He's starting to come on a little bit too.
The thing with Higgins that surprises me, he had a lot of chemistry. He was kind of the security blanket for Baker Mayfield during his really good rookie year. And then the coaching staff just took him off the field last year. It's like something didn't add up. I mean, do you sense that chemistry that we saw 2 years ago is still very much there with Baker Mayfield, at least what you've seen in training camp?
It seems like it is. And the nice thing about Higgins, even though he doesn't check a ton of boxes from an athletic standpoint, he's not the fastest guy. He's not a guy that's going to just run by people. He's one of those guys that if it's 3rd and 4, you know where he's going to be, and he's going to be in a spot where you can get a first down. And I think that matters. I think maybe we overrated Higgins a little bit after that year a few years ago when he was Baker Mayfield's security blanket, but he's still a valuable piece. And, now you have some other receivers who can bring some speed, like a Donovan Peoples-Jones, like a Kaderil Hodge. If those guys make the roster, they bring some speed and allows you to kind of slide Higgins in where you need him. And I think that's really kind of the way he needs to be used.
Yeah, you mentioned Higgins being where he needs to be. That's how you win the trust of a quarterback, because he knows if I find you, you're going to be where you need to be on 3rd and 4 to get us a first down. Let me switch gears just a little bit. Beckham and Landry, both coming off surgeries in the offseason. How have they looked? I mean, by all accounts, when they've been practicing, they look healthy.
They do, especially Beckham. Again, that connection with Mayfield, those two are always going to be a little bit off just because Beckham's a little bit of a freelancer and Baker Mayfield is a precision guy. But when those two connect, it's exciting. And you can see this year the chemistry is much better than it was last year. And part of it is just because Beckham's healthy and he's able to practice unlike last year. He's made some highlight plays. And Jarvis Landry is a guy that you just know what he is. And even though he's been in and out, they've been taking it slow with him coming off that hip surgery. That connection with Baker Mayfield, like we talk about with Rashard Higgins, we don't talk about it as much with Jarvis Landry, but we probably should. Those two are just consistently on the same page. Jarvis Landry is really reliable for Baker Mayfield. And when he's out there, he just catches the football.
The other thing about Landry that I'm glad they're taking it slow with him, he is a guy that will knock people over blocking in the run game. And that's going to lead, in this scheme, a guy like that as your wide receiver with 2 tight ends, that's going to lead to some big-time runs because he's going to be blocking on the backside of that run scheme a lot.
Yeah, he's just absolutely fearless. He brings this edge to him, and that's where you see it, right? When he goes out there and he makes those blocks, he comes in line and he blocks a linebacker or a safety or a corner or whoever it is. He's not afraid to go in there and mix it up. Sometimes he goes a little too far, brings out a flag or something like that, but you live with that with Jarvis Landry. It's not just what he does on the field. Whenever I've talked to one of those other receivers and I talk about, who in that room is kind of the leader of that room, it's always Jarvis first. And, it should be noted they mentioned Odell, too. He's established himself as a leader, but it always starts with Jarvis.
The other thing that people made a big deal about was the chemistry between Beckham and Mayfield. I think those two like each other. I think, as you alluded to, the chemistry wasn't quite there because Odell couldn't practice because they were trying to keep him healthy for the games.
Yeah, they couldn't get him on the field in the preseason. They couldn't get him on the field in camp. And again, like I said, Beckham's a little bit of a freelancer, and Baker, kind of likes that precision accuracy type offense. And so you have to be out there together. You have to get a feel for, here's how Odell likes to run this route. Here's where he wants this football. It's a lot like a point guard in basketball. You need to know where a guy's going to be, where he likes the ball to land, all of that stuff. And those two are starting to get on that page together.
Let's wrap up the offensive side of things. Talk a little bit about tight ends. You mentioned Hooper. Have you seen him kind of mentoring the rookie tight end as well? He's a guy that, had a not great experience as a rookie, and he wants to be one of those veteran guys that young players can come to. Do you kind of get the sense that he is that guy in the tight end room?
Yeah, when we got a chance to talk to him at the beginning of camp, he went out of his way to point out that's who he wants to be. He wants to be the veteran in that room and help these guys get better, because you have such a young room. David Njoku is still a young guy. He's just going into his fourth year. A guy like Steven Carlson, who I know they like. I don't know if he's going to be able to fit onto the roster with the other tight ends, but that's a guy who needs some mentoring and needs to learn the position. Harrison Bryant is someone we talked about as well. And Pharaoh Brown has even managed to make some plays, a local guy who made the roster last year and has a chance to do it this year. So I think Austin Hooper is embracing that role, and we do see that group standing together and talking with each other between plays. I think it's important to have a guy who's been there, who's been successful, who's put up numbers, and who's willing to say to the other guys in that room, follow me. I'll show you what you need to do.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer, will rejoin us after a quick break. We're going to flip sides of the ball. We're talking defense and maybe some potential answers at safety to help out with some injuries. More sports and less Levine. The Weekend Winners edition will be right back. Stay with us.
We're living in uncertain times, but you don't have to put your future on hold. At Tri-C, you can move ahead while staying safe and saving money. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, check out Tri-C's programs and resources, because Tri-C is where futures begin.
Well, hello everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Labbe, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week, and it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns training camp. Let's bring Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as for the Plain Dealer, back in. And Dan, let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Let's start at the linebacker position. There were some questions there. Mack Wilson goes out, will miss some time. They bring in a free agent that's been a veteran. How do you think the linebacking core is stacking up when you look at this right now?
The good news is B.J. Goodson has appeared to lock down that middle linebacker position. A little bit of a surprise, I guess, but he's been the most vocal guy. He fits what you want out of a middle linebacker. He's really established himself as the leader of that group. So I think when they get out there on September 13th, he's going to be the guy in the middle, green sticker on the helmet, making the calls. He's really stepped up and established that. Other than that, you're seeing a little bit of the rookie Jacob Phillips get some playing time. Sione Takitaki had a pick 6 yesterday, so that's good news off a tip pass. He's been pretty good in this camp, and they're going to need him to step up with Mack Wilson out for a little while, if not for the whole season. We're still kind of waiting to see how that goes. But they're cobbling things together around Goodson a little bit. Tay Davis is a guy that was a special teamer they brought in last year. He's getting some opportunities. They're still trying to find that third guy to put out there.
Anybody that to keep an ear out for that you think could develop into what they're looking for as far as a consistent contributor at the linebacker position?
I think in an ideal world, you'd want Jacob Phillips to step into that role because you drafted him in the 3rd round. You'd like to see him get that opportunity, a little bit like Mack Wilson did last year when Christian Kirksey went down. I think maybe you'd like to see Jacob Phillips step up and play really well as a rookie and establish himself as maybe a long-term option for you. So I think that's the guy to keep an eye on. In an ideal world, you got him out there, Taki on the other side, and B.J. Goodson in the middle. I don't think they'll have 3 linebackers on the field a lot, but when you do, I think you'd like it to be those 3.
Let's switch to the defensive line. That's expected to be a big-time strength, and if this defense is going to be good, they're going to have to get after it. How have they looked? How has Myles Garrett looked? I know had a quad injury and hadn't been full speed, but you can get a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. The minute he gets out there, you just notice him. He's different. He's built different. His speed, all of that, you just see it right away with Myles Garrett. So, even though he dealt with that soft tissue injury, he still looks like Myles Garrett when he lines up in those team drills and he goes against whatever tackle he goes against. Olivier Vernon has looked pretty good. We'll see if the problem with him has been staying on the field during the season, staying healthy for a full season. We'll see about that. On the inside, that's where it gets interesting because Larry Ogunjobi was out for a little while. We got to see the rookie Jordan Elliott get some opportunities. Sheldon Richardson is a guy I really liked from last year, but I want to see how that interior line shakes out because losing Andrew Billings, it really hurt them. I think they wanted kind of a 4-man rotation in there, and they had it set up until he opted out. So there's an opportunity if somebody can kind of step in and be that 4th guy in that rotation, that they'll have a chance to get on the field.
Has Elliott been what they expected, or I guess, again, nothing has been full speed, but have you gotten a sense that there are some intriguing possibilities with Elliott?
I think so, and he's gotten some opportunities to, especially with Ogunjobi out, to get in and play with that first team, and he's been a guy. Again, it's so hard to tell sometimes, but he's been a guy that's been able to get into the backfield and make an impact. And you can see some of the things they really liked when they picked him out of Missouri. And when you went back and watched the tape of him, you'd see him get into the backfield and be disruptive. And that's what they really want out of that middle. They don't just want run stuffers. They want to be able to create pressure up the middle.
Let's move to the back half. And, the news on Grant Delpit wasn't good. The number 2, 2nd round pick. In the draft, done for the year. And that's a guy that I think the Browns were counting on to come in and be a big piece of that back half.
He was going to be, his versatility was something that really was going to be a big part of this defense. So even if you were starting, let's say, Carl Joseph and Andrew Sendejo, who were the 2 guys who were working with the first team, even when Delpit was healthy, Delpit was going to be a guy that played against the slot. He was going to be that third safety on the field. He was going to be used in dime packages. I think they were really going to rely on his versatility to cause some problems in this defense. And you just don't have another guy like that on the roster. There's a reason you picked him in the second round, and there's a reason a lot of people saw him as a potential first-round pick if he could have come out a year earlier. His versatility is so valuable, and his ability is so valuable. So to lose that for the year before you even get a chance to see him on the football field, it's tough for him, and it's really tough for this defense.
Greedy Williams banged up as well, and I always worry about defensive backs, cover guys especially, that have shoulder injuries, because you don't want them to come up in run support and hit, and that's what you want them to do. So that's an injury that is concerning for a slender build guy that you want on the field all the time.
And it just adds to kind of the chaos in that secondary right now. They're trying to figure out who fits where, and you wanted Denzel Ward on one side and Greedy Williams on the other side, and that's like you're stabilizing. When you can count on those two guys, everything else can fall into place. And now with Greedy Williams, we just don't know. They're not really telling us a whole lot about him, and I think it is a little concerning when we're a few days out from it and they don't have an update. It could mean that nothing's wrong and he's going to be out there again soon, or it could mean they're still kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And hopefully it's the former and not the latter, because they need Greedy Williams to be on the field and playing well.
We've been covering the Browns for a while. I've never seen this many injuries in camp, and there are probably a number of reasons for it. Some are fluke, some are because you haven't been able to do the OTAs, some are because you haven't been able to do team training, but there have been a lot of injuries early in this camp.
And I think the frustrating part of it is they are a little unpredictable. It's not hamstring injuries they've had a couple soft tissue things, but Mac Wilson, right? That's a freak injury. A guy goes down on 7-on-7. Kevin Johnson, a lacerated liver. Nobody expects an injury like that, and it happens on a freak play. Terrence Mitchell was dealing with a knee, Greedy Williams with a shoulder, and I think that's the other part of it. So much of it has happened to one position group, and it just makes it really hard, not only to kind of project that group, but honestly, it makes it hard to practice. You've got to make adjustments if you don't have the bodies out there to really, attack a practice on the defensive side of the football. Joe Woods has had to make some big time adjustments back there to how he practices and who he has out there. It just makes it hard to kind of get ready for the season.
Let's look at guys that might be answers that are available. Any free agents to keep an ear out for that you think the Browns are seriously looking at? Do you know? I mean, they're banged up in the secondary. That's obvious. Do you think there are any names to keep an ear out for?
I think they'll look at honestly anybody. One of the names that I'm kind of curious about, who's still out there for some reason, is a guy like Logan Ryan. He's been a corner, but he views himself as a safety now. Browns fans might remember him as the guy that got beer thrown on him from a fan in the dog pound who lost his seat in that disastrous opener last year. But I'm really curious why Logan Ryan is still out there, and if he's a guy maybe the Browns would be interested to come in and at least take a look at. I think anybody they sign at this point is going to be pretty low risk, at least from a money standpoint. So I don't think there's anybody out there that you wouldn't at least maybe eyeball.
I got to believe it's a pretty firm no on Earl Thomas, and it's a guy on the back half age-wise, but when you hear some of the things, late to meetings because he had to wash his truck, and then also punches a teammate who calls him out because he blew an assignment, I got to believe that's the kind of thing you just don't want any part of if you're this coaching staff who is trying to build a winning culture.
And it's been such a chaotic offseason already. You've dealt with a pandemic. You've dealt with a shortened offseason. Of course, you've dealt with players trying to deal with social injustices, racial injustices, and kind of help guide them through their actions and what they want to do in that regard. There's just been so much going on. And then to add an explosive element like Earl Thomas into the locker room, you just don't know what's going to happen. Again, it would be low risk, right? You could bring him in. Maybe you could make it a situation where if it just didn't work, you could send him packing. But I just don't know that you want to add that explosive element to your locker room right now when you're just trying to get ready to play football and all the circumstances around you kind of continue to work against you.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. Appreciate the insight as always. And Dan, I'm sure we'll be checking back in with you as training camp moves forward towards this 2020 season. As always, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate your insights.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Want to remind you that Les Levine will be back in the chair Monday, and we will see you again next weekend. Stay safe and have a great weekend, everybody.